Okay, it's Tuesday, July 28th, 2026. It's 9:08 a.m. We'll call the meeting of the Door County Board of Supervisors to order. Do we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we do a roll call, please? Waiting for one more. Or...
Ryan, roll call.
Okay. Okay, the roll call is 20 present with one excused. The presentation of the agenda, as it was properly noticed, I assume? Okay. We need a motion to approve the agenda. A motion by Supervisor Norton, a second by Supervisor Kane Berry. No suggested changes to the agenda, so all in approval signify by aye. Opposed? And the agenda stands approved. There is nothing in the packet for correspondence. We'll move to the public comment. Anyone wishing to make public comments should state their name and address, and they're allowed 3 minutes during that process.
Hi, my name is Mike Grimm, and I live at 30 North 7th Avenue here in Sturgeon Bay. I just wanted to make a comment on the resolution 52 about the Museum and Archives Project, Phase 3. I'd just like to urge, and I don't know if this is past time to make such a recommendation or a urging of the council, but I'd just like the council to consider solar installation on the roof of that building. It's a activity that's really surging here in the county. There were 44 installations last year in the county, from private homes to businesses here in town. There are 4 structures in town now that do have major solar installations on the roof. And so I would just urge the council to consider that as part of this rehab of this building down at on 4th Avenue here. So I would also just like to say that if you have questions about any tax credits or any other subsidies that might be available to the county, you can contact Jeff Letzi at the Door County Climate Change Coalition. He's facilitating a group buy here in the county, so there is some cost savings by getting into this group buy with other residences or other private and public institutions here in the county. There is also a tax credit that's still available from the federal government this year, up to about 30%. That is, however, if the installation, if the project starts this year. Otherwise, it'll go away. So that's something else that might be considered by the county. So again, just urging the county to consider that as part of the rehab of this building. And it's certainly a benefit to the taxpayers here in the county. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to make public comment?
Morning. Name is Chris Perzicki. I'm at Spruce Drive in Sturgeon Bay. Good morning. At a recent Joint Highway and Facilities and Finance Committee's meeting, I commented on the role of the museum as being charged by the public to preserve the stories of Door County, past, present, and future. I wanted to complement that by further advocating for public history and how that effort in a community-driven institution like our museum is a vital part of what makes the peninsula and its peoples unique. To acquire and maintain a sense of place is a fundamental human pursuit. Our homes, churches, schools, and parks are just a few such places we hold dear. In such places, we are secure in our connection to something bigger than ourselves, our family, our community, and our environment. Both memory and discovery reinforce this profound connection, and eventually, if we're lucky, our very identity, who we are, becomes transformed by these places. For generations of Door County residents whose labor is evidenced in every orchard, fish boil, and trail, the peninsula is rich in personal history. Newcomers like myself and my own family come here to live and work in Door County, hoping to add to this place in some meaningful way. This place, created by our combined histories, is no small part of what compels visitors and tourists to create and celebrate their own place in our community, even if it is only temporary. As I previously mentioned, the very existence of the Door County Museum and Archive is a testament to how past generations valued their sense of place here. The everyday trinkets and toys housed there may seem quaint compared to the curated collections found in other museums. As a public archive, however, these collections help facilitate connection. Through that connection, we gain a better appreciation for what we have, what has been lost, and what is to come. Public archives are also very much alive, despite appearing still behind glass displays or cataloged in a dim basement. They come to life and breathe when someone comes along to answer some burning question or to simply explore and learn. With the new expansion, the museum will be able to share more of what makes Door County such a special place. We'll be able to preserve more artifacts and documents in climate-controlled facilities that are better suited for the job. We will be able to record and capture our artifacts using advanced digital tools. Most importantly, we will be equipped to share those artifacts so that others can better connect with our shared place and story in Door County. Collections will be accessible online, as well as using improved additions to our brick and mortar location. With your support, we can build on that foundation established nearly a century ago and ensure future generations can celebrate their own place in Door County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to comment?
Hi, I'm Dawn Taylor. I reside at 844 South 15th Avenue here in Sturgeon Bay. I am also the treasurer of the Friends of the Door County Museum and Archives. I urge you to support the museum and archives plan being proposed today. It's a scaled back, budget-friendly rehab using planned CIP funds already earmarked for the museum. And this plan, today's plan, meets the critical needs of the museum without needing additional staff. It transforms the empty Yonkers building into an accessible home for the museum's growing collections and archives, so they're no longer crammed into an overfull, damp basement. It gives staff an office and exhibit fabrication workshop, which they currently have neither. It provides space for programming, research, collaboration, and general storage. As a result, this will even free up some space in the museum for exhibits. This plan also includes an ADA accessible entry and bathroom for the museum, which is the right thing to do. But this plan is more than a museum and archives project. This plan also provides additional storage for the county and potential lease revenue. This lease revenue will offset annual facility operation costs. The money for this plan is there. The more we study this, the more it's going to cost without solving the problems. It's time to stop talking about the problems and start solving them. Please support moving forward with this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to make a public comment? Okay. Seeing no indication from anyone in the audience, we'll go to those online.
Sure. So for those online, if you'd please like to raise your hand, I can give you the floor. And again, raise your hand and I will put you on the floor to speak. I'll ask 2 more times, would anyone like to speak? And for the final time, is there anyone who'd like to speak? Seeing none, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Supervisor's response? Is there any indication for a response? Okay, thank you. The approval of the minutes from the June 11th and June 23rd County Board meetings. So we have a motion to approve those minutes. There's a motion by Supervisor Jeancourt, a second by Supervisor Smith. Any corrections, additions to those minutes? Seeing no indications of any changes, all those in favor of approval signify by aye. Opposed? So that passes by voice vote. County Administrator, you want to give us our monthly report?
Sure, the monthly update on projects is in your packet. Obviously, there's several items on the agenda today that we're going to talk about, so I guess I will defer to those agenda items in terms of the updates. So I'll refer back to you.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing under pending business. Well, I'm sorry. Okay. Needed to look at those. Okay, Supervisor Hein Peter.
Thank you. Under the administrator's report, I just wanted to ask about at our organizational meeting in April, this body passed a motion for a robust discussion on accommodating meeting times for the county board. There was supposed to be an update at the July meeting or this meeting, so I was just curious if we could get an update.
Okay, I believe it was an issue at the May meeting of the administrative committee. I wasn't at that one, so could I defer to Mr. Thace or to Ken if either of you care to comment about? I think there was discussion at that meeting.
So what we did discuss it, the committee did at that point in time, they discussed the meetings, and the committee at that time felt that the that the meetings were all publicized for people taking out papers to run under those meeting times. So what they'd like to do, or what their suggestion was, is that they review the meeting times and then republicize them when the next election cycle comes up, was the discussion and the will of the committee.
I guess my question then is, how are we going to, like, I'm looking for the process where we're going to evaluate.
I think that, again, I wasn't part of the discussion, but the understanding is that we've been elected to our terms anticipating, knowing it would be a 9 o'clock meeting, and prior to the next election would be a better time to review those.
So we're just going to
Decision.
defer until later
Yes,
at this point.
yes.
And there's no plan for later, though? You're just telling me later. I'm just
Well,
trying
I
to
would
understand.
suggest it would be before the election, before nomination papers and so forth, in 2 years from now, or a year and a half. Okay?
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, and Supervisor Thace.
Yeah, just quickly, on the emergency services current status, we are currently working on the site analysis. What is the anticipation, the expectation for that to be presented? Is that like a month away, or?
We're probably, sorry. We haven't officially initiated it, so once it's initiated, it's estimated to be 60 days. So we should have that result probably within 2 weeks, so I'd say we're probably 3 months out total.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Seeing no other indication of any request, we'll go to the resolutions. Resolution 2026-46, Supervisor Combs.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to adopt resolution number 2026-46, approval of gift to the Door County Facilities and Parks Department for John Miles County Park. This is in the amount of $6,642.28, and this will assist with the development of a full-size basketball court at John Miles County Park.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding the project being promoted at the John Miles Park? Any other associated costs will be in the parks budget. This is for the equipment, and then I think that's the way I understood it, correct? Okay. Okay, any other questions regarding this resolution? Otherwise, we have a motion by Supervisor Combs, a second by Supervisor Jeancourt to approve the donation towards the basketball court at John Miles Park. All in favor signify by aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes by voice vote. Resolution 2026-47, Supervisor Thace.
Thank you, Chairman Engelbert. I'd like to introduce Resolution 2026-47. It's a grant for Fragmoney's adaptive management, the framework of that management. It's a $11,000 grant, $11,565 grant. There are no matching monies from the county, and it would be to further the Phragmites management program in the county. If there's any detailed questions, I do believe we've got land conservation present. They could answer any detail on that.
Okay, are there any questions of the department staff regarding the Phragmites program? Okay, Supervisor Norton.
Thank you. I was just wondering, because, I mean, the Phragmites has come up before, even like when I was on LCC. I was just wondering how we are doing as a county on it. I mean, is it a constant battle? Are we seeing any progression? I get that with an invasive species, it's almost, it's really hard to fully remove them. I was just wondering kind of where we're at with it.
Would staff care to respond or give a more accurate answer than? It is a constant problem.
Right, and I get that it's not necessarily an easy answer.
You're right about that. So good morning, all. For those who don't know me, I'm Jason, one of our conservationists here in the county, and I oversee our invasive species program. So yeah, Phragmites is a challenge. We are making headway. It is a constant battle. Really what we're trying to do is just stay ahead of the curve. We have a lot of grants in the process. We're working for this, as you'll see in this packet today. We also have more coming in the pipeline. So we are making progress through various sites. I've been out this year. We've been updating a lot of our current maps and things that we haven't gone on to for 2 or 3 years to remap, because we do a lot of contractor-based work, and we're finding really positive trends. So a lot of areas we're not finding anything or very few stems. I was at a couple sites yesterday myself and didn't see anything at all, which was great to see. So there is a progress trend moving forward. We are always finding more, but it's a matter of just staying on top of it and working with homeowners, residents, tourists, visitors, all alike, just to be aware of everything, because we can't be everywhere all the time. So we rely on people like you or the general public to really help us know what we're looking for and where things are popping up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got a couple more.
Okay, Supervisor Miller?
Yeah, what effect does the surrounding counties not doing as good of a job as we are? How, like Brown County, Kewaunee County, when you drive into those counties, you see a lot more Phragmites. Are they on track to do a better job so that it doesn't continue to infiltrate us?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I get asked similar questions all the time. What are they doing? So there are people like me in other counties. We're really lucky where I'm able to focus on one sole county. My counterparts in Brown and Kewaunee counties, they each have about 4 or 5 counties they see. So they're kind of working with the same sort of budget that I am. So I don't want to say they're not doing Phragmites work, but they just aren't doing the same level or the same areas. They might focus on more high quality areas. So you drive down 57, we've all done it. We've all seen the Phragmites many across the county line. For them, that might not be as much of a priority because they are dealing with the same amount of money there, but they're going to focus on a more high quality area. For me, I'm going to focus on that because that's what we see. You go into a private forest like the Gardner Swamp, most of us are never going to see the Phragmites out there, so you don't know what's happening, but you can see the work happening along that right of way. So that's really why we focus a lot on that. So we spend a lot of time focusing on that county line, really to make sure that anything that does come across there, we're getting on top of it right away.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So we do have a motion by Supervisor Thaiss and a second by Supervisor Norton to approve the Great Lakes Commission grant indicated in Resolution 2026-47. All those in favor signify by aye. Opposed? That carries. The next resolution also pertains to the Phragmites. Supervisor Thaiss?
Yes, I'll introduce Resolution 2026-48, which is once again a grant, and this one is from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Grant, and it's specifically for Plum Island and Detroit Island invasive species. The grant is for $35,000 and some change. There is no match monies. So again, if there's any specific details, I should say that it should be noticed and it should be commended. Greg and his staff do an excellent job on seeking out and finding these grants and finding these monies to do these types of things, not only for invasive species, but for a whole lot of other things that, bring life to the Land Conservation Committee. So they do an excellent job, and we're seeing the fruits of that here now. So if there's any detailed questions, again, they can answer.
Okay. Again, Supervisor Hancock.
Which species are you working on with this grant?
Yeah, so this is actually not solely Phragmites. So I was actually approached by the Fish and Wildlife Service to take this special project on. They had some extra funds and they wanted us to do it because we're boots on the ground here in the county. They're based out of Horicon Marsh, so them coming up here is challenging. So this would be work on Plum and Detroit Islands and really kind of just tackling a slew of things. So woody invasives like barberry, buckthorn, other herbaceous things. The first year of this project, we are going to spend a lot of time just mapping the islands as much as we can to figure out what's really going on up there. We'll work with staff in the Fish and Wildlife Service as well to see what they have and what their priorities might be. So it's going to be a slew of things, various things, whatever we can find that's growing in high abundance on the islands.
Okay, any other questions for? Seeing none? Okay, we do have the motion by Supervisor Thais and a second by Supervisor Pluff to approve the Fish and Wildlife Grant for invasive species on the islands. All those in favor signify by aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes as well by voice vote. Resolution 2026-49, again, Supervisor Thais.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Approval of the Weed Management and Area Private Forest Grant Program. This is a grant for $19,000, and it's from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. There's a county match of $5,000, which is in the budget. So there's no new monies that will be introduced to accept this grant. And once again, the details can be filled in by staff.
Okay, are there any questions for staff regarding this grant? Otherwise, we have a motion by Supervisor Thais and a second by Supervisor Pluff to approve the Wisconsin DNR grant. For all those in favor signify by aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes as well. Okay, I guess it's an indication that the Soil and Water Office, as Supervisor Thais indicated, is doing a lot of work trying to solicit grants, and that's always a benefit to the county. Next resolution, again, Supervisor Thais. It's introduced by myself. I'm not supposed to introduce resolutions. I've asked the Vice Chair to do that on my behalf.
Thanking our clerk for pushing my button to make these introductions. I forgot to do that. So thanks, Joe, covering me. Resolution 2026-50, appointment of the County Highway Commissioner. And I will read this, it is short. To the County Board of Supervisors, whereas pursuant to 11.06 DCC and 59.18 TAC 4 and 83.01 Wisconsin State County Administrator shall appoint the Highway Commissioner, and this appointment is subject to confirmation by the County Board, which is what we're here to do today. The Door County Administrator Ken Pavlik has nominated Matt DeCur for this appointment, and his employment will begin on August 10th of 2026. So now, therefore, be it resolved that Matthew DeCur appointment as Door County Highway Commissioner is hereby confirmed by the Door County Board of Supervisors effective August 10th, 2026. Just a little bit about the background and the process. As you know, our current Highway Commissioner, Thad, has put in his notice of retirement. So this process started several months back. There were a handful of candidates to be considered for this position. We interviewed multiple candidates. Myself, Supervisor Combs, and Chairman Engelbert partook as part of the county board in these interviews. Mr. DeCur was invited back for a second interview, which involved a ride around the county with Chairman Engelbert, Mr. Ash, and Mr. Dvorak, and then another sit-down interview. And after that interview, we concurred that Mr. DeCur was the gentleman that we would like to take that position. So in your packet, not in your packet, but you were handed out a brief summary of Matt's background, and he happens to be here today. That's the gentleman standing up there. So Ken, anything more you want to say, as it is your
Sure. No, I guess I'm just excited as well. David did a great job with the summary. I'd like to introduce Matt. Obviously, we did include a little summary, but Matt did make it down for us today. So I thought I'd give Matt some time to introduce himself, and maybe he can cover what's on the sheet for us. So,
I'll do my best. Mr. Chair, County Board, good morning. As the statement says, I'm Matt DeCur. Grew up in Swamico, moved away to college, and then spent the last 20 years working for cities throughout Minnesota and Wisconsin as a municipal engineer, working on streets and utility systems, everything from planning to construction, maintenance, and operations. Most recently, I've been the Public Works Director in Peshtigo, managed the water and sewer utility, streets, forestry, all the public infrastructure within the city. Wanted to thank first Ken, Todd, David, Thad, Christina, everyone else involved in the process to get us here. Excited to get to this side of the bay and work and live in Door County, the Door Peninsula, and yeah, we can answer any questions if anyone's got them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for accepting the job. Very good.
We'll have one.
Yes, we do have to vote on the appointment. So there's a motion by Thais and a second by Norton to approve the recommended appointment of Matt DeCur as Door County Highway Commissioner. All those in favor signify by aye. Opposed? Okay, that stands approved. Okay, the next resolution, 2026-51, Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce resolution number 2026-51, emergency repair landfill pump transfer of non-budgeted funds. It would be a proven amount not to exceed $25,000 from the landfill reserve account to the landfill repair and maintenance expense. And with that, I would make a motion to approve.
Okay, we do have a motion by Supervisor Miller and a second by Supervisor Smith. For the use of the funds from the maintenance account. We do need to go to the voter board on this one, but before we do that, are there any questions regarding the purchase? I think it's, okay, Supervisor Hancock.
Not so much a question, but just for myself as a reminder and for new board members, what is the county landfill and why do we have it and why do we have continued maintenance on it? Just
Okay.
sure. So, yeah, so a lot of people don't know that we actually do have a landfill. It's currently, obviously, it's no longer active. It's in Southern Door. A lot of people are familiar with the Idlewild Golf Course, but it's right in that location. Actually, it's right across the street. As once the landfill did close, though, the county has the responsibility to actually maintain the landfill. And in essence, what our maintenance does is we do an annual inspection each year to check the quality of the cap and the materials. So every few years, we're required to, let's say, put additional material up on top. But then also we have to, I guess, treat the existing leachate. So once a week, the leachate is pumped from the landfill and is brought to the Sturgeon Bay utilities for disposal. And again, what we're required to do is for another 16 years is to maintain that. Then at that time, they'll actually do an assessment of the landfill, and that might be extended further into the distance. But yeah, that's kind of what we do. And obviously what happened with this repair is the main pump failed. So it was an emergency repair, so we did actually order the pump already. But this is in terms of the process, we need to get it approved as an unbudgeted expenditure.
Mhm. And the reason it is unbudgeted, well, it is unbudgeted, but we do have a reserve account that the county is required to have funds to cover the routine maintenance and responsibility for that site. Okay, are there any other questions? Otherwise, we have the motion by Supervisor Miller and a second by Supervisor Smith to approve the emergency repair for the leachate system. All those in favor, well, we have to go to the voter board on this one. Okay, that passes with a vote of 20 yes and 1 absent. Okay, the next resolution, 2026-52, Supervisor Combs.
To adopt resolution number 2026-52, Museum and Archives Project Phase 3 funding, contract awards, construction authorization. This is for upgrading the Door County Historical Museum and renovating the former Yonkers building for a proposed new museum archives facility, meeting and tenant space.
Okay, we have Wayne and Paul Bartsky from Immel here to probably answer any questions and go through some of the information. Ken, you want to
Sure.
introduce them?
If you guys just indulge me just for a second, the chair did ask that I just provide a summary. I'm sure most of the committee or the county board knows, but this all for those for at home. I just want to go through just a couple pages from your packet. If you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen really quick for those online or those individuals that want to see it. And let me also move this over for the county board to see. Sorry. So on page 35 of your packet, I just wanted to show you the general overview of the facility itself for those that may not, or just a reminder of what the facility is. If you can follow my cursor just a little bit, where my cursor is now would be where 4th Avenue is located. And again, this would be, some people are familiar with the old Yonkers, but obviously you'd enter the old store in this front area in here. You'd have your store in the back. I think I remember right, there's mattresses and furniture towards the back. And then obviously this was the warehouse portion. What you are now seeing is the museum and archives that actually occupy this back corner of the facility. And they would also use part of the storage, and also the rest of the storage would be made available for county use as well. There's a number of rooms that have been established for the museum to be able to use. This, following my cursor, this would be a small workshop. And this area would be what we call like a staging area to either work with the materials or things coming in and out of storage. And then back here would be the actual storage of all the materials and everything set forth. In this location here, we have this a setup for an office space for museum and archives for staff. In this location, we have some wet and dry room. And then we have what the other portion of the building then is what we considered more of a shared space. So we're looking at 2 primary conference rooms that are going to be available both for the county and the potential future tenants. And then right now you can see we're showing it as just a picture wise of 2 potential lease spaces in the front of the building. So that is what the project is summarizing, or where we're at. The next one would be just jumping to page 38 of your packet. But for those who are online, this gives you a general idea of what the facilities proposal look like. Again, you can see the renderings from different perspectives of the facility. And this is how it was presented and taken out to bid. The other part of the project that's also included, obviously, is the museum itself in terms of those updates. So I'm just going to jump really quick to page 72. And this one, it's a little bit hard to see what we're looking at, so I'm just going to zoom in just a little bit for you. But if you're familiar, again, this is 4th Avenue down now at the bottom. And this portion right here is actually the main entrance to the museum itself. Here's the 2 doors. If you're familiar walking into museum, this would be where the exhibit is for the wildlife. The reason I'm pointing this out is as part of the project is that we're installing the ADA bathrooms and also the ramp to get in. So up here is where I guess you consider the existing bathroom, our bathrooms are located. We were able to take up just a little bit of space, but then convert those now into ADA accessible a bathroom. So that's what's being done in this portion. And then likewise, what you're seeing now at the entrance, these were your stairs coming up. Now what you're seeing here is this would be your ADA ramp that makes the museum accessible. If I would just go to the front rendering, it's not in color, but it'll give you an idea, of what that'll look like from the front. So right now, when you look at the front, there's actually the stairway goes across in front of both of these doors. You'll see the single stairway, but then you'll see the ramp actually getting into the facility. This would be the view from the street, and this would be obviously the view from the side. The only thing that did change on the drawings itself is that this rendering doesn't have it, but it does have a similar stone in this bottom portion here that was required by the city to match the building. So again, that's what the project's including. It's including the entire renovation of the former Yonkers building, and it also includes the updates now to the museum, which includes both the ADA bathrooms and the ADA access ramp. So with that, I will defer it back to the chair, and if there's any questions, we could have Emil or Wayne come up and answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you for providing a little closer examination of the designs. Are there any questions? Supervisor Hancock?
On pages 35 and 38, which you just referenced, can you explain two parts, the public use of the archives and the public entrance? I see it on there like between the two rentals. Is that the front door of the archives building? And will it have public hours, or is that associated with the museum? Like, what's the public use of the archive space, if any? And is that a public entrance?
So then on the renderings, what you're seeing is what we consider the primary entrance. So yes, the back portion of the building is going to be mainly for storage of the archive material. So really that'd be more by appointment if you wanted to go actually work with materials. But what we're also with the museum, what Joe's hoping to do is be able to provide like seminars or series or educational talks. And likewise for future clients, they could use those two conference rooms. So that would be the main, what I would consider entrance into that facility. So the building will have, similar to this building, so it'll have like fob access. So again, when there's an event going on, it'll be programmed to be open for those hours for people to get in for access and so forth. So.
Okay. Any other? Supervisor Shaw?
Yes. Thank you so much. I have a couple of questions. First question that I have is, Mr. Pavick, you mentioned the conference room spaces are going to be available for like county staff, I assume, obviously, and museum staff. Are they going to be made similarly available like the library conference rooms are as well? And if not, I would like to see that considered at least. I think having public third spaces that people can meet for free where we're accommodating this is a public entity. I think it would be really important that is something that is available to the public. The other question that I had, somebody brought it up during the public comment, solar panels. I know at different stages while we've talked about this project, we've talked about trying to be as environmentally conscious and friendly and forward with this project. Are there any thoughts before we finalize this of getting that in there? Was it cost prohibitive? Before we vote on this, I want to make sure that we have that conversation. Just to make sure that we can get, I want to make sure that it's something that we could certainly add on. I don't know.
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask Wayne to come up and help me with this question, because I know it was an item that we looked at both with focus on energy and also with, and I know, Paul, if you want to come up, but I know we had to do the condition report of the roof and everything rated. So maybe Wayne, can you come up and help me in that discussion, please?
Thank you, Wayne Spurka, Facilities and Parks Director, if you don't remember. So to go straight to the solar panel question, right, that was not part of the feasibility study and it was not part of engineering and design. So essentially we were given a framework and a budget to work with, and that's where we worked with it. Now, when we went through the iteration previous to this, right, that came back at the 8 point whatever million that was, we did go through that exercise, and it was ultimately cut from that because it was just not cost prohibitive. And I think the payback was 16 or 17 years. And so when they were looking at the design and the angle and all those things, they couldn't get enough on the roof that they wanted to get on. So we did not do that study for this particular project. It was not part of the project.
So to that, Ben, or Chair, say we vote on this today, we vote yes. And a couple months down the line, if we continue, can we continue exploring some public-private partnerships? I think the gentleman mentioned the environment, I can't remember the group, but blanking, but we all know who I'm talking about.
Solar.
Yeah. I think it'd be really important as we're going into this, yes, if we're gonna approve, that's great, I'm excited about that. But if we're gonna take the crack at it, let's continue to think about if there's ways that we can work with these public-private partnerships before we get something finalized, and let's get it to be this shining beacon. And I mean, we talk often about being leaders in spaces, let's lead.
And maybe I can help with that. So I don't want to say I'm part of a lot of those conversations with Green Tier and Jeff Letzi and Mike, and so we talk and collaborate on those things quite often, right? And you never hear about it because there's nothing to really report out at the end. And so we look at those cost analysis and we like what makes sense for us to do as a public entity, and what tax credits do we truly get. So we hear things like there's tax credits and there's these credits and those credits, but it doesn't always work for us when we come and I work that through Steve, our finance director, right? We don't always qualify for some of those things. So as private citizens, you may, and sometimes there are municipal tax credits, and they're not really tax credits, right? They're just credits, right? Let's say what it really is. It's just a cheaper way to get the job done, right? So sometimes we qualify, sometimes we don't, and they're at different thresholds, and so we do have those conversations continuously. So I don't want you to think that I'm ignoring any of that by any means, because I do look at all of those pieces when we try and look through projects. And I mean, we're looking at that as we explore the roof on the Justice Center.
Cool.
Right?
Great.
We do that, right? That's a 2030 project. We've all heard about that. And so we continue to figure out what makes sense. And there's probably more square footage there, and then we can find that payback.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we run the analysis as much as it can.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear. That it's continuously being
Yes,
thought
sir.
of and worked on in the county. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Supervisor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this question may have been partially answered by Supervisor Hancock's question, but in some of the prior public comments, comments were made regarding that I got the feeling that they think that they're going to have more viewing space out of this facility. And it really is not going to be more viewing space. And then also that the archives will be stored there. So I just, to make sure the public understands what they're getting from this thing as far as their accessibility to viewing. And the second question.
Oh, sorry.
In prior discussions, I think it was the 714 inspection of the fire station roof, it indicated that that will be in need of repair in the future, but I don't believe, Wayne, you mentioned what kind of cost what kind of condition is it in? And what kind of cost would you expect to have in the next year, 2 years, whatever? I think you had mentioned it was going to be in the 29 budget cycle. Well, what kind of cost? So those are my two questions, please.
Yeah, absolutely fair. So you saw that we had a 714 inspection come back, right?
Yep.
And so the remarks from the technician is you should plan to replace this roof, right? So we've sought and requested those costs and estimates. So they got to come back. They got to put that together for us. And that
Do
was
you have any idea what
2 weeks ago?
ballpark?
I don't. I thought we had put a preliminary into the CIP, but I didn't bring that with me.
Because that's
So-
a flat roof, so.
Well, yeah, that section is.
Yeah.
It's a flat granular roof, so it's not a straight EPDME as far as construction goes. It's a little bit different. And that was quite a few years before I came on board. So I looked at that, but it's really not a comparable number to try and estimate that out 15 years later.
So we really don't know if there's,
Okay.
excuse me,
Waiting on an estimate.
okay, we don't know if there's any structural damage or just a matter of replacing the existing.
Yeah, no structure.
Protection.
No. We're not. Yeah, there's a minor leak every now and then that we go and repair, right? So that's normal roofing, and that's how we do this inspection. So
Okay, thank you.
no, there's no damage done.
And then Ken, if you could answer my first question, please.
Sure. So again, on the viewing side, again, the way the building is set up, all of the museum storage would be in that back location. The archives, so there's a difference. I guess there's two types of archives, right? So there's what I consider the museum's collection, and some of those might have some archival material. And then there's what we consider the traditional archives, right? It's going to be the chronicle or the newspaper items, stuff from the government or different communities as far as history and all that stuff. So right now, most of all of the archives, the paper archives, are actually stored in the basement of the library. And the idea would be is that it'd be eventually the items would be scanned and what they call digitized, so that way you can actually research and do those online. So that I think will continue. And then we'll determine in terms of the ultimate design for the archives, when we look at the remodeling of the library itself. The back portion of that room could handle, if we got other items from other communities, the museum could actually store some of the archival material. But really the shelving and everything else is set up for all of the museum collection materials. In terms of the public, yeah, so the public's really not going to go to the museum, to the Yonkers, former Yonkers building. We have to get a better name, right? We have to say what it is, right? But they're not really going to go there to view museum collections. It's really going to be more of an interactive thing. Should they do some type of programming on either the materials or something like that, that's what those conferences would be for. But the actual viewing of materials would still be in the museum itself. So we'll keep that part active. Yep, no, I appreciate that question. I appreciate that.
Okay. Supervisor Hancock.
Clarification for that too. So what presently happens in the library now, when someone goes in and wants to do research or see archives, you're saying they would not be able to do that until it's digitized, or they would still do that in the library, or they would do it by an appointment in the archives? I know there's little details, but I think it's the question he's getting at is how does the public interact with archives?
Yeah, so right now there's the history room in the library. So you guys can nod with me if I'm wrong, but anyone that wants to come in and do research, they can obviously do research in this is called the Mary Jean room, for our history room. So they can do research there, and there's the computer you can get on for our existing items that have been digitized. But if there's a document or something that they would actually like to view, they can actually then talk with the staff and then set up an appointment. And usually a staff person or Joe himself will actually sit down with that individual and get them that material. Did I cover that right? Correct. Correct.
Okay. Some of those appointments happen here in this building as well, with our advocate records. So people make appointments and we let them in to go through the physical advocates that we have stored here and come up with some of the stories that you see.
I guess to kind of answer your question as well, Vinny, I'm not that involved in that operation, but I would think if this is approved, the plan for how it's used and availability will all evolve with it over time a little bit. Right. Okay, Supervisor Zettel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In previous meetings, we were informed that there may be potential tenant or tenants identified for the lease spaces. How do we know as a county, and I don't know if we lease other spaces to other entities as part of a practice, how do we know and how will we know that those spaces are going to be leased at competitive rates? And what's the process to ensure some transparency along those lines? Thank you.
Yeah, you can
sure.
Respond to that.
I'll cover it.
Okay.
So in this building, we lease out the space to FSA. So that's one lease space that we have. In this case, we're looking at potentially 2 tenant spaces. Could it be divided into a third potentially? But in essence, what we'll try to do is look for those individual tenants. We did do some research on, I guess, what we consider, market lease rate. I think the big thing that'd be a little bit different in terms of that is the space that we're providing is not completed. So it depends also on what they're looking at their investment into that to help balance out that lease rate. But again, any of those types of things in terms of that lease would ultimately have to go through both highway facilities and then also the county board. So you'll have that transparency throughout the process. Obviously, I mean, our initial discussions in terms of meeting with those tenants and looking at that would be, in, I guess, what we consider negotiations or talking to them. But then once we have that information, that'd go through the committee process.
Okay, and the potential tenants would be those agencies, the groups that are working with the county versus retail, which would be there.
Yeah, I mean, the direction from highway facilities is to try to get something compatible. So right now we're looking at versus like a retail space, we're looking for office-related tenants.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Any further discussion? Okay. For this resolution, we do need to go to the, I'd like to go to the voter board on that one as well. So we have the motion by Supervisor Combs and a second by Supervisor Smith to approve resolution 2026-52, approving the phase 3 of the museum archives project. Okay, that passes on a vote of 19 yes and 1 no and 1 absent. Okay, thank you for that resolution. The next is resolution 2026-53, Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce resolution number 2026-53, which is a Chairland Airport one-way project cost overage, transfer of non-budgeted funds in an amount of not to exceed $149,940.80. And I am going to ask Ken to give further explanation because this has become a fairly complicated issue at this point in time. So, but
Thank you. So what I did is there's a handout that's at your station that we can kind of cover. So there's really 2 different items that I'd like to discuss or outline, and Craig's here if he wants to help back me up on any of it. But really there was 2 parts of the project. There was what we consider the runway, the north-south runway, and then also the taxiway. So for the taxiway, if you can see at the top, there's an overrun of $206,759.80. And then for the runway itself, there's $279,205.62. So what happened on this project is on, I believe it was July 9th, we were informed or given our first copy of what was actually the fiscal review of where we were with the project, and they had projected overruns. So Craig immediately called me and says, hey, we have an issue, and actually called Sean. And then we met with him the next week. And in essence, we met on these 2 items, and it's broken down as you see in front of you for those 2 overruns. Before I get to the table below, the initial thought is that the county would have to come up with 50% of both of those items in totality in terms of making this work. So what happened first, let me give the background. On the taxi runway, what they did is they actually pulled up the taxiway, and then they placed down material, and then when they did the compaction test, that material did not pass. So then they paused and they said, okay, well, how do we make this work? In essence, the solution is to tear up all that material and then now put down new material along with what they call like a geofabric, and then they could, in essence, then complete the project. So that's what that $206,000 comes into play. For the 279, those were items that were identified, if you can imagine, were, that's the way I can say it, is different cut and fill quantities that had to be adjusted throughout the project. So when they tore up the runway and they tested the material, there's areas that didn't pass. So in some areas they had better results and they didn't have to cut as much, but in other areas they had to cut more and then place the material or get the fines material and place it in there. So what happened is when we were doing the project, obviously the materials on the amount that we had to do is much more substantial than what they had projected. So as I discussed with Highway or at Finance, again, just because of the timing, what happened is when they met, they said, well, we're not going to proceed with this project until we know the county is willing to commit. So on that 7 days later, so July 16th, we were kind of caught in a quandary of, okay, what do we do? Because right now the airport was still closed. And our FBO to date is down about $200,000 in terms of our operations. Likewise, EAA was coming up, which is also their highest and busiest part of the month to operate. So that being said, we brought it immediately to finance because I would see it was not an emergency per se, but it's a timing thing. So we brought it directly to finance for their action and consideration, and that's why you see it here before you today. So what happened since that meeting and what came into finance is that the Bureau of Aeronautics for the taxiway, now I'll go to that chart on your sheet, they found a block grant. So for the block grant, 186,000 is covered by the federal government, and then the state and local is divided, the remaining portion 50-50, which is that 10,337.99. Okay, so that's your taxiway portion. The runway is what they're looking at is taking that 279 and dividing it in half is 139,602 between both the state and local. And then down below, they're explaining how they're proposing to pay for it. And in essence, what they're doing is they're looking at taking our future entitlement funds to apply towards this project in 2027. So that is their proposed solution. Obviously, at the committee level, the committee was not really satisfied with that type of response because it's going to affect our future projects, potentially. So the committee, and I did put the request in, we formally requested a meeting with the Bureau of Aeronautics to determine exactly what projects will be impacted and by how much based on this proposed solution. So that covers that part. Obviously, the other question that I'm sure that's wondering in your minds is that, is there any performance related issues in the contract that could also be pursued? So in other words, on a taxiway, why did they put down the wrong material? And why is the county now held responsible for putting down that wrong material? So that is what I did meet with the Bureau of Aeronautics on last week. And we had that initial discussion, and they're going to, I guess, look into that, was the response that I was given. Likewise with the runways, the question that the committee posed to me and I posed to the Bureau of Aeronautics is, how do you allow a project to pursue or go on with $280,000 of overruns and never have a discussion on that as the project's going along or to get to that level? That one is a little bit, also they're going to try to check into of why that was not captured or what was done. My initial feedback is that the runway portion may be accountable to poor project management, but there may not be much they can do. But I guess I haven't gotten a formal response back to that. And likewise, on the taxiway, they need to do an investigation of why the materials were put down, who made that decision, and was it reasonable to take that plan of action. So without getting into the science of it, in essence, when you use the materials that are placed down, it depends the moisture content and when it's done, and the speed at which you try to get it done. So part of the argument could have been is that, well, if we allow those materials to sit out there longer in the dry, that they might actually pass the test. So that might be part of their logic in terms of what they're explaining. So I'm not trying to go too far into the weeds, but I'm trying to give you some context of that discussion to say that there's obviously a lot more discussion to happen. But also when I brought it to committee, there's a critical path of us getting the airport back open and being able to generate some revenue, especially for the FBO, but also us, because we get an indirect portion of the fuel sales. So what's before you today is the resolution for the 149-940-80. So that's what we know as of to date for those change orders. The only thing I'll be clear is that I cannot guarantee to you that there's not going to be some additional ones, because obviously they're still working and they're still finishing up the quantities on the other part of the change orders. So I guess I was more comfortable in giving you the exact number and knowing that I have to come back to ask for more if it is higher than that. You could authorize the resolution to go higher, but I guess I'd rather, my recommendation is make me come back and ask you for the additional dollars so that way it's transparent in what's going on. But hopefully I covered it in detail. The only thing I can say is one other question you might have is, well, why doesn't the state actually, since they're managing the project, why isn't the state picking up more of the tab? There is a state statute that Sean could summarize for you, but in essence, there's a state statute that says the state will not cover anything more than 50% of any overrun, no matter who's at fault, in essence. So the If there's any remedy, the remedy will come back to both of us, 50/50, but they will not pay anything more than 50% of the cost. So the county is required for 50% of the cost that's presented. So that's kind of where we're at and why we got to this point. And Sean, you can help me clarify any other questions, but if you have any questions, we can cover those for you.
Okay, Supervisor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to point out what Ken mentioned, part of the reason that this went through finance quickly and then here is that it's my understanding, Ken, that the contractor would not do any of the work until such time as the county board approved these funds. So we had to speed this thing through so that we could get them back working and hopefully get this thing done within, what, 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it is. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they literally pulled off site and they remobilized somewhere else. So we literally had the taxiways wide open. So we were down and you couldn't function near airport. Even though the runway portions were done, there's still some fine work to do, but we couldn't open the airport at all. So literally, if we get this approved, we can call the Bureau of Aeronautics, inform them that we passed a resolution, and they will, in essence, remobilize. But just so you're aware, we're probably looking at least 2 weeks before mobilization, 3 weeks. Can you come up?
Craig, could you?
Yeah, you got to
please.
come up so they can hear you and see you.
This is the airport manager, Craig.
Craig Ross with the Door County Cherryland Airport. I talked with Weston and the Wallbeck Group yesterday. If we pass the resolution today, it'll go in front of the DOA as of, if I send it off either today, if we send an email off today, maybe they can actually do it by voice or by email, that if we pass this resolution, that they can actually get it approved and hopefully be mobilized by Monday. So it'll actually be the 3rd. Due to some other projects being on hold, they said that they can actually fast track this and get us going back by the 3rd, so August 3rd. So, I mean, that's pretty good turnaround. And then completion date would be the 14th of August for the airport. Within that time period, it's also going to be, they're looking at finishing up lighting so we can at least open runway 20 and 2, so that we can actually get some traffic coming in and out. More of our jet traffic. It'll only be day operations, obviously, due to we're still waiting for our electrical to be completed. But we can at least get some aircraft to at least land during day operations, so that we can kind of litigate some of this on the FBO, obviously, the business that's actually running out of the airport. So.
Okay, we have a question, Supervisor Caneberry.
Confused as to what we're approving here. Are we approving the resolution that says the 149,940 is coming out of capital outlay, or are we approving that contingent that we may also be taking 2027 entitlement?
So the way it's proposed right now is that we are responsible for the 149,940.80, but in essence, the state portion of their match is using our future entitlement funds. The two projects that we're setting money aside for is the airport master plan, and then the other one is also for our future fencing. At one time we were concerned about the SRE building, but they said some of that money is set aside. I guess our concern with the SRE, that's the snow removal building, sorry, is that we're expecting that will also be higher than what they have budgeted. So in other words, if that building comes in higher and they don't have any funds, then does that building get postponed? So those are all questions that we have.
Does that meet your understanding, explanation?
Yeah.
We voted on funding the project.
Sean, you want to?
The way the resolution is written is we are funding the project. There's a possibility that we could recoup some of our funding through those future projects, but that's not for sure at this point. So the resolution is funding our portion of the project, the overrun above federal and state funds.
Mm-hmm. I guess I might offer somewhat of an interpretation as well, is that we're taking funds from the airport accounts, not knowing what those future expenses might be. And if there's problems with those accounts as those projects move forward, we can find another source to replenish that if the state doesn't provide more funding. Is that somewhat correct, Ken?
Somewhat correct. Yes.
Somewhat. Nothing is absolute in this process. I guess I want to thank Ken and Craig for their efforts, and Sean. This came up and they're trying to deal with it as efficiently on a timely basis to get the airport back functioning.
I mean, the best way I can say it is, right, we have to pay the cash. The state doesn't really have the cash, so they're looking at other project funds to take the cash from.
Yeah.
So just to be, right, transparent, I know that's the question you're asking, right? So the question is, for the state portion of that cash, is it impacting our future projects? Because there are future allocations. And that's what we're meeting with them on and going to debate with them on, that to see what can be done. But that'll be, as you know, if they don't have cash, it'll be a difficult discussion. So.
And if I can clarify too, some of those future projects, like we're looking at a fencing project, some of those might even be pushed out even further down the road than 2028 due to we're going to have to procure some land probably from the park if we want that fence to be approved through that process because of how our approaches are laid out, along with some other factors that we've talked about this last week. I know that we've done our great due diligence in trying to mitigate this as much as we can. The master plan is our biggest holdup also. Our ALP and everything else has set us back, like the SRE building. I had to propose that we move the location this last year, now from midfield down to the south end. And is due to our ALP plan, our area layout plan. The master plan, just to kind of give you a background, is the layout of the whole airport. We have some that are sitting 30, 40 years that we're going to extend 1028. The possibilities of that are diminishing due to county road PD and a scenic easement. I don't see that process really ever, passing through that to extend that runway. And we've tried to mitigate through that by signing off possibly, that project probably will never move forward with the extension of 1028. And we still have to get that master plan completed, which is also a 3-year program if you look at that. So with that funding, we might already be into the next set of our entitlements. And also, they do a lot of borrowing and sharing. If you look at the process, like we've given some of our funds over to different airports, which is now being backfed into our airport, which is probably why we're getting this additional $180,000 from the feds. So that's actually some of the apportionment funds that we've signed off in the past 2 years. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes, another way of answering your question, Teresa, is that we could have probably gone to the general account to take some of this money, but we usually try to take the money from within the department first. And so once those other projects are defined a little bit more, if there's a need, we can adjust in that fashion. Okay, any other questions? Supervisor Thase.
Yeah, just have some background here, maybe for myself or others here that maybe have the same questions, but it's an unfortunate position that we find ourselves in, but I think we have no choice but to support this, of course. So of the $5.8 million original project cost, which is now 6.4 or whatever it may be, how much of that 5.8 came through county CIP, county money? How much of that 5.8 is county's money, and how much of that is others?
That is actually, it went down, diminished due to now it's actually a 95, 2.5, 2.5. It was originally supposed to be a 95-5 split. So we are actually getting some funds back from the feds. So we're actually gaining some.
So clean that up. Of the 5 or 6.4, 95% of that is Fed money?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So then for the project tree, so to speak, the BOA is the ones who put in that money, correct?
Correct. They're the
And
ones
then
that delegate.
they contracted out to Weston, who's the project management, who contracted out to Walbeck, who was the contractor, who contracted out to Northeast Asphalt, correct? That's the project tree?
Correct.
Okay, and the stop work started between Weston, the project management, and Walbeck. Who stopped work? Walbeck? Who pulled out? Walbeck?
Yes, Walbeck pulled out due to they were put on a hold from Westwood, which is hired by the BOA.
Okay, all right. So I mentioned this in the finance department. There's contract language that's dictating all of this from the BOA to Weston to Walbeck to Northeast Asphalt, of which the county is not signatory or knowledgeable of any of that contract language. We don't know. We haven't seen it, correct? That was the answer last time.
The contract is between the state and Walbeck Group or Northeast Asphalt, the state and Westwood. We're not a party to those agreements.
We're signatory to nothing.
We are signatory to nothing, other than I did approve the form of the surety for Northeast Asphalt to complete the work. That was the only thing I'm aware of that we signed off on. Yeah. Was that there's this requirement that I approved the surety. But yeah, we're not a signatory to those agreements. It's part of the federal funding, state funding scheme is that they handle that.
Yeah, and I guess for general information for all the county board as to that's the project tree and that's the position we find ourselves in, which is difficult to see the ability to walk that back to the county, and have that hostage situation going on, I guess, more or less, because we're stopping, we're pulling out, and we're stuck in a very, very difficult spot, which hopefully doesn't happen in the future.
Is Supervisor Peter.
Like Mr. Thay said, I support this. I understand that we're sort of in a no-win situation here. So I just wanted to, I appreciate that. And I had my question before I heard all of that. So I appreciate that. And I think it still is a valid comment to say that this is probably a good opportunity to reevaluate or continue the discussion on user fees of the airport and how the county could offset our contribution or our required, where we're coming up with this by supplementing those user fees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Zettel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things we talked about at the Finance Committee meeting was engaging our state representative on this relative to engaging with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, relative to accountability. And I know we're looking at it, in that meeting relative to not impacting future funding as Supervisor Kane Berry's talked about, but I would also make a point of just making sure that in this case, Representative Kitchens understands the loss of revenue. So there's impact that way as well relative to any actions we may take in order to recoup not only protecting future funding for our future projects, but also lost revenue. And also just lastly, I also agree with Supervisor Peter about looking at fees down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions of any supervisor? Okay, thank you, Ross. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have the motion by Supervisor Miller and a second by Supervisor Jeancourt to approve the resolution 2026-53. Would you go to the voter board on this? We require a 2/3 vote. And that passes with a vote of 20 yes and 1 absent. So that stands approved. Okay, that concludes our resolutions. We don't have any ordinances on today's agenda. Nor special reports. Have nothing for new oral committee reports. Are there any committees that wish to make a report? Supervisor Zettel. Miller.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as we discussed earlier, for those people in the Finance Committee, there's going to be a need for a joint finance and admin. And if it's all right with my fellow Finance Committee members, we would meet with the admin committee right after their meeting, which I believe is on August 18th. So probably somewhere around that 10-ish o'clock, something like that. And instead of then reconvening for finance on the following Wednesday, we would just have our finance committee meeting right after the joint meeting, if that's all right with our.
Thank you. That's what our initial discussion this morning. And as we see agendas developing, we'll adjust the times accordingly.
Just make note of that.
Okay. Thank you. Now Supervisor Zettel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just waiting for the board to match up. I don't want to make sure we didn't lose the new business opportunity.
Okay.
In the joint meeting that we had and in previous meetings on the museum project, I had asked about the ongoing discussions we've had about the structure of the museum and working that more towards a structure similar to the way the Maritime Museum basically runs the Cana Island assets. In it to operate it with less direct county involvement. And Ken, I think you're the one who said that when we had the joint finance meeting, hey, we want to get this project squared away before we start looking at kind of how we would do a future structuring. So I would just like to move that we put that now on a plan to get an initial assessment done, say within the next 120 days relative to a potential structure, including user fees or subscription fees or entrance fees, in order to look at how we can make this museum more sustainable going forward. If we look at the significant decision the county board made well before I was on the board relative to making the decision to have the county fair be more self-sustainable and the county reducing its funding. If I look at the county fair, that has just as much of a historical and social significance over its 100-plus year run as the museum, and I think it's something we should look at forward to make sure that there's funding sustainable to make sure that museum can stay operational and take advantage of the space that we're going to be investing in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to look at this as a suggestion for some new business. It's not an item specifically on the agenda, so we're not going to continue discussion on it. But yes, I've made the comment too that we need to. Today we've approved the project for the museum, and it will give us some insight as to how we might be able to move forward if there is an attempt to partner with anyone. And yeah, it's definitely something that maybe not in 120 days, but as we go forward, we can consider those items. The project is probably to be addressed, completed by the first of the year is the anticipated timeline. So there's a lot of moving parts to the whole thing. So, okay. Back to the oral committee reports. Seeing no indication of any reports. Review of the vouchers, claims, and bills. Any questions on those? Okay. Under announcements, the clerk has a reminder to us that okay, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Well, I can.
We had 3 players go to nationals for Special Olympics.
That the clerk is taking orders on by the end of this week.
Yep. If you're interested in ordering a shirt, you don't have to go to conference to order a shirt. Please see me by the end of the week with size, style, and payment.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
I'm sorry?
Just one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one thing just to point out too, just to mark your calendars, please. So you can see for the next county board, that's at Tuesday, August 25th. What we're going to do is the same format as we did last year in terms of our review of our budget. So if you recall, and for the new members, what we do is we have our regular meeting at 9. Normally, let's just say it takes an hour and a half. We would then just take a short recess and we go what we call as our budget review. So we'll go into the review of the 2027 budget. That review will probably take us up until lunch time approximately. And then what we'll do is we adjourn, and then the finance committee meets, and they refer the budget back to all the home committees for their final review. So if you could block out additional time on Tuesday, August 25th, I would say probably through lunchtime. So we'll provide lunch for that meeting. So just a reminder.
Followed by the finance committee.
Yep, followed by that finance committee.
Okay.
No Bloody Mary bar. You're trying.
Okay, that deals with the next county board meeting?
Right.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to adjourn. Or is there something, we're not there yet?
Okay, well, no. We get you there, just one. Okay, we're ready.
Okay, motion to adjourn is in order. A motion by Jean-Court, a second by Pluff. All in favor of adjournment, signify by aye. Opposed? Thank you.